I'm Karin. Welcome to my world. I want to talk about intuition because I use that word a lot, and I want to explain what I mean by it and how I access it. By intuition, I mean what my brain doesn't figure out for itself, pretty much. I used to only make decisions based on what I thought would be the best solution. Like what education would make me the most money, uh, what decisions, any kind of decision was made from my brain. Now, according to me, we are souls that incarnate in a body, and the body is a three-dimensional construction with all the limitations that it gives. And the brain is part of the body, so that's limited in the same way. The brain only sees the three-dimensional world that we incarnate in, which means they can think through some things, but there's just so much it doesn't know. Now, most of us have heard of the expressions to go with your heart and go with your gut feeling. I'm sure most of us, all of us, have had moments where we have felt something was right or wrong, but have not thought it first. So often we have a feeling, it's a gut feeling, or you're touched by your heart or whatever, and you have a feeling of what is the right decision for you and what is the wrong decision. Often we mess that up by trying to think through it. And if there's not a logical explanation to why it's good or bad for you, then we don't follow through with the initial feeling we had. And that can lead to sometimes some not so great circumstances. When I was moving from being a fully linear person who only thought with my brain and didn't really feel anything, to the multidimensional person I am now, living by my intuition, there was a time early on when I was looking at this intuition thing and wondering, okay, so is this any good? Can I use it? I'm used to using my brain, so what do I want this for? And coming from a science background and being very logical, at the time I decided that there was only really one way to figure out if it worked for me, and that was to only use my intuition. Because if I used it sometimes, but not all the time, I wouldn't have the information to know if it was useful for me or not. Because you need to have proper statistics to be able to see the logical information. So I decided to use only intuition for pretty much any decision. And I think I did that for about 3 to 6 months. I think it might have been 6 months. And how did I know what I intuitively felt? I started out with one tool that was passed on to me by a dear friend, Bradford Tilden, and how I got in touch with him and how he helped me is another story. But he taught me a pretty neat trick that you can use your body as a dowser, as a pendulum. So anyone can do this, and it's very convincing too if you want to show people that there's more to it than just a body, that we do have a field around us that is part of who we are. So if you want to use your body as a dowser, what you do is stand up straight, both feet on the ground, even weight on them, knees slightly bent, and say something like, I want to use my body as a dowser, and that the information I get comes only from my higher self. I don't use these precautions anymore. I don't feel vulnerable, but if you feel comfortable doing that, please add it. And then you say, please show me a yes. And you relax and you see what happens. Typically, you will feel your body be pushed in one direction. And it's pretty freaky for some people because who's doing the pushing? Well, your field is the field that surrounds you. It's not a ghost, it's not a stranger, it's you. And then you can ask to have the body show you a no. and it will push you in another direction. You can try with some simple questions like today is Thursday, I had fish for lunch, whatever, and see what happens. And from then you can move on to other kinds of questions. I overdid it at first before I realized that I can only get the answer to things that are in my field. So I cannot start making predictions for when there is an earthquake in San Francisco or things like that. I can ask questions that are connected to me, that are in my field, that I ought to know, but that my brain doesn't know. And sometimes it's just really useful to get a kind of a literal movement showing you what it is you really want. Because what we really want, our hearts know. Heart and guts, they communicate with the soul. They're the connection to the soul. Our brains are not. Brains are great for figuring out how to implement what your heart wants. But brains are not good for making the big decisions. They're very limited. It's like asking a 5-year-old what you should have for dinner. It usually doesn't turn out too great, unless you're 5. Another tool I've used a lot is the pendulum. Like this is one I made. You can use anything, but it works easier if it has some weight at the bottom. Basically, it's a dear pendulum, please show me a yes. And my field is moving this to a yes. So if you check, you can see my hand is not moving. And I say thank you and stop. And say, please show me a no. And there will go. Thank you, stop. So I can ask, am I recording a YouTube video right now? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Would I enjoy having popcorn with the movie I'm going to watch later? We got a yes there. Thank you. So that was how I used it very much at the beginning. Every single decision I was making, I tried to use dowsing, or using the body as a pendulum, or using a pendulum, just to see what happened. So it was down to, am I going to enjoy this coat if I buy it? Is it likely that I will feel I wasted my money if I buy it? Is this the right size for this sweater on online shopping? Should I go to, will it benefit me to go to this event? Should I accept this option? Anything. Should I go to this cafe or that cafe? You can only get yes or no, but you can try either of them. So I tried to do that exclusively, pretty much for 6 months, I think it was. And after those 6 months, I sat down and I asked myself, so how did this go? And the conclusion I came to was that I don't know if it made my life better necessarily, but it absolutely made it more interesting. It made it more fun, and it made it more interesting. Due to decisions made by intuition, I had traveled to numerous countries. I had found a sponsor who paid for those journeys. I had experienced so much I wouldn't have if my brain was left with deciding what was good for me or not. So since I called that a success, that is what I continued to do. And the more I've relied on my intuition, the stronger it's gotten. Because that's kind of how it is with any tool or muscle. The more you use it, the more proficient you get. So these days, if I feel pulled or guided in a direction, I often get chills. If I'm presented with a choice and I have to decide if it's the right one for me, apart from asking intuition, I often get chills if this is, yes, I need to do this. And it's a bit challenging because often I don't know why. I find out sooner or later why, but at the point of time, I often don't know why. So I have to trust. And not trusting my brains, but trusting my instinct, trusting my gut feeling. And that's a challenge, especially if I want to try to explain to people around me why I'm making various decisions, because often I can't at the time. Later, when I see what's happening, when I see the flow of movements of energy, whatever, then I understand why. But right when I get the impression, I usually don't. But I've lived with following my intuition for well over 10 years now. And I know that it works for me, and I know that it helps to get me in the best possible place. So I follow it. And as I usually say, that this is the only one I ever take orders from. The only one who can boss me around is my intuition. If it says go, I'll say yes sir, and I'll go. Or yes ma'am. Whatever. So that's how I use intuition, and these are some of the tools that I use to help guide me. There are others, but these are the ones I use. Thank you for now.